And welcome to the Tour Report from Secret Golf. It is the playoff finale, the Tour Championship at Eastlake in Atlanta. The top 30 in the season-long FedExCup standings will be teeing it up this week. And, well, there's $18 million to play for. Elk, back in the day, it would have been nice to know that if you finished last place, you walked away with $500,000 still.
We thought it was good back in the day when we walked away with about 75. So I think inflation, that's about right. Guys are playing for a lot of money this week, Diane. I think, going back to a familiar place, there's a bunch of guys at the top of this board. It's about 5 or 6 of them that I think are in this tournament that have a lot of experience at Eastlake. Our show is going to be slightly different this week. Normally we pick a winner, someone to watch, and a dark horse. I don't think there's any dark horses available to us this week, Diane. I think the dark horse will be someone that's about 5 or 6 strokes back of this handicap event, which I'll let you explain in just a second. But very familiar golf course. Certain players at the top of this board play this course very well. We know that, and that's how we're going to handicap it this week.
Right, we're going to get into the whole staggered scoring and the handicap system before play even begins, and we'll do that in a few minutes. But Elk, first of all, let's talk about Eastlake, because I went to the Tour Championship a couple of years ago. It's an amazing course. You've obviously been there a lot. Let's talk about the course and what it's asking the players to do.
Very traditional style golf course, Diane. Has some water shots that they have to deal with. We've seen some terrific finishes. They've flipped the nines. It used to be a par 3 finish. Now that's the 9th hole. Now they finish on a par 5 back to the clubhouse. Very demanding. It's interesting, Diane, when I look at the stats for the season, here we are in the final event of the year, and I look at all my, stats of these guys who've actually made it to the top 30, and I look at the stats that are not important to the tour players. And the one that stands out to me so much, which we kind of know this, is driving accuracy. There's only one player in the top dozen players that's in the top 30 and driving it straight, and that's some JM. He's at 29th. Everyone else, you pick them. They're all in the hundreds. So they're hitting it down there a mile, and they're going, hitting, all these stats and data that they're following now is telling them that the 2 important stats that are on this sheet, littered with great putters and great greens and reg guys. So the name of the game, obviously, is hit it down there as far as you can, get it onto the green, and then be a good putter.
That's our full sheet that we have all the stats that you just held up. We have that available on the SG Tour app. So you can go and check out our app. We'll talk about the games in a little while. You can play along, but you can go and actually have a look at the stats that we review. But that's a great point. I mean, let's give some examples here. Scotty Scheffler, who's sitting at the top. He is first greens in reg for the season, 3rd in putting average. Patrick Cantlay, who won the BMW last week, 25th greens in reg, 10th putting average. Will Zalatoris, 8th greens in reg, 19th putting average. For all the stick he gets, he's still firmly within the top 20. And we can really take it down as far as Cam Smith, who's first putting average for the season, which comes as no surprise. 46th greens in reg. But as you said to me before we started filming the show, that when you're first in putting, you can afford to have a slightly higher greens in reg stat.
Well, you can play very aggressive golf when you're 46, by the way, in greens and reg may only be 1 less green than the guy who's leading greens and reg. So let's say the average tour player hits 14 greens around or 15. Cam Smith, of course, we saw him get up and down at the 17th hole in the Open Championship, over the bunker, rolled it up over, made it up and down, no problem. Of course, when you putt as good as Cam Smith, everything is aggressive. Shooting at pins all day long. We know that Cam draws the ball. I had him picked at the Open Championship for exactly that. Basically drew the ball into the course all week and then hit a lot of greens, but putted better than everyone else. Mm-hmm. Will he be a factor this week, Diane? There's 2 players that are on our injury list this week. Will Zalatoris, one of our favorites, and also Cam Smith. Cam Smith was my pick to win the FedExCup. I pulled him off the board for my pick, Diane. I don't like to pick hurt players, particularly when it's around the hip or the back. Will Zalatoris, it looked as though on the TV the other day, he popped his SI joint, which is the joint that's right down at the bottom. He's probably got it back in there now, but he's a thin guy, and with a lot of speed, when your hip gets back in or your back gets back in, It feels better, but it's not like bulletproof. So they'll be gingerly. I don't think they can climb on board and beat these guys that are above them this week. So I'm pulling my FedEx Cup favorite, Cam Smith. As much as I don't like his 6 shots, would be 6 shots behind Scotty Scheffler. Now, I want to check in with you in the Rory McIlroy camp because you've been following him very closely. Does he have any injuries that we worried about?
Well, I think before we get into that, let's talk about the scoring, because this staggered scoring, this handicap system that the Tour implemented a few years ago, that is a huge factor, really the biggest factor this week, because we have the top 30 guys from the whole season who make it to the Tour Championship. So they're all playing well. I mean, they're all in good form. So, you know, much, much smaller field and guys that are playing great to cement their place in this top 30. Now, everyone starts on a staggered score. So before even a single shot has been struck on Thursday, we have a leaderboard. Scotty Scheffler, who is at the top of the FedEx Cup standings for the whole season, starts on -10. Patrick Cantlay on -8. Will Zalatoris on -7. Sam Burns on -5. Then we have Cam Smith, Rory Mcilroy, Tony Finau, and Sepp Straka on -4. I'm not going to go through every single one of them here, but the next group, John Ram, Scott Stallings, Justin Thomas, Cameron Young, and Matt Fitzpatrick, all on -3. So Scotty Scheffler has a 2-shot lead before they've even began over last week's winner, Patrick Cantlay. The guys at the bottom are starting on level par. So he has a 10-shot lead over 5 guys in the field before play even gets going. Which obviously, you know, you said at the beginning of the show, there's a very small number of guys that you feel can go out there and win this. And that 10-shot lead for Scheffler has to be feeling pretty good right now over a pack of the field.
Yeah, and you look at the board, you mentioned there, you know, it's a very interesting format. We remember Sepp Straka at Memphis, who got beaten in a playoff by Will Zalatoris, finds himself right in the mix, so to speak, at -4. Missed 6 cuts in a row, had 1 second-place finish in the playoffs, and now he's finding himself as a chance to win the 16 or is it $18 million. Not sure if that's quite figures out. However, the name of the game this week, Diane, is we have a couple of guys at the top of this board that are experts at this tournament. And I know who you're already going to pick this week because you picked him at this course the last 2 years and he hasn't disappointed. Now, there is only one event going on this week, which is the handicap of these guys. And whoever wins this tournament with the handicap wins the FedEx Cup.
Yep.
We talked a minute ago, I'm going to gush you again about Rory McIlroy. He was your favorite going into the playoffs. He finds himself 6 shots behind Scheffler, 4 shots behind Cantlay. Where are you on the Rory McIlroy camp? And are you still in this camp, or have you bolted to the field?
So, yes, at the very beginning of the playoffs, you said that you were picking Cam Smith to win the FedEx Cup. And again, injury, and we'll talk about Cam again in a minute, but I had picked Rory McIlroy then, and you knew this because I made the pick. The next day he came out at the Memphis tournament and said that he hadn't hit a ball or worked out in the gym in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, well, there we go. That's out the window for me now. He's 14-1 this week, as you said. He begins on -4, so 6 shots behind Scheffler. He'll have to make up ground right away. He'll have to hit the ground running on Thursday to try and close that gap. He finished the BMW Championship well, finished in a tie for 8th, birdies on 16, 17 and 18. So that was a nice finish, gave him some extra points to move him up, and maybe some momentum in the quest to win the FedEx Cup. Oh, it's tough. It's tough because I'm worried that if I say I'm not picking him, that it's going to come back and bite me. You know, Rory's obviously had success at Eastlake and with the FedEx Cup before, but I do have another guy, I think, that is going to be my favorite to go on and win it this week.
The big question, Diane, will be, did Rory McIlroy make a huge mistake in these playoffs by not practicing in Memphis? If he would have finished maybe in the top 15 at Memphis and got some more points, he might be starting 1 or 2 strokes behind Scotty Scheffler this week. And will that bad week at Memphis where he didn't practice coming into the playoffs cost him the 18 million. Could very well be a stroke or two if he plays well this week.
Let's talk about Cam Smith, because he was your main pick and he withdrew last week because of hip discomfort. Now, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, hip discomfort, but there's a few factors around Cam right now. I think he was probably pretty pissed with the tour in that he was given that 2-stroke penalty before he teed off on Sunday from a rules violation on Saturday. He was in contention at that time and then didn't have a great Sunday. There's also the live rumours surrounding Cam Smith that he's going to leave and go to live after this. Does he want to go out in like a big blaze of glory and win the FedEx Cup, be FedEx Cup champion, Players champion, Open champion, and go away to live for all this money? There's a lot surrounding Cam Smith right now, and it's going to be an interesting week to see what mindset he has this week and how he goes out and takes it on.
Yeah, the big question with Cam will be, how is the hip, and is it affecting his swing? Or, as he goes into this week, he's already said he's looking forward to playing the President's Cup. He hasn't made an official announcement on the live. Will it be one of these weeks on the TV and the tour and everyone on social media be pulling for the two guys that are staying with the tour at the top, and Cam Smith's coming along, if he was in contention at the end of this week, would take over number one ranking in the world, win the Tour Championship, be the Players Champion and the Open Champion, and move on to another league? Don't know. I look at the guy's games. Cam's my guy, and I've had him all along, but I can't take injured players, and particularly when there's about 3 names above him that have got a handicap on him this week that are playing better.
Yeah. Okay, well, that handicap, as you say, there's only going to be one winner, and this was really to overcome the problem that they had in years gone by when there would be a winner of the Tour Championship and then a winner of the FedEx Cup. And I'll never forget when Tiger won the Tour Championship and Justin Rose won the FedEx Cup. He was completely overshadowed, and obviously changes were implemented, and that's the way it is now. Okay, fine. But looking last year, Patrick Cantlay won everything last year, right? So won the FedEx Cup at Eastlake. His total score for the week was 269. He would have been beaten by 3 guys if we were just looking at their aggregate score from those 4 rounds. John Ram and Kevin Na both shot 266, and Xander Schauffele 268. Then we have Justin Thomas and Victor Hovland, who also shot 269, which was the same score as Cantlay. So it's kind of interesting when you look at it that way, but the rules are the rules, and that's the way it is now. But it's good to look back, and that's the basis of my pick this week for sure.
Yeah, and it's becoming very evident to me that Patrick Cantlay swing is very much, very much in line, nice rhythm. But I think the strength that Patrick Cantlay has is he's so calm. I mean, look at the shot he hit on 18 last week at BMW. He's in the bunker on a side heel lie with the ball above his feet. Looked like a whole lot of drama going on there. Smoothly just put it on the green and 2-putted and just took the tournament. But Cantlay, he's very comfortable knowing that $18 million or whatever it is it 16 or is it 18?
18.
Did it pretty easily last year. This was a time of year, you know how big I am on guys that get playing well at a certain time of the year. I've done it all season. I call it biorhythms, where guys have come back and played well at exactly the same time, at exactly the same place. Cantlay, I know I'm going to have him this week. He's going to be my pick to win this because he's just so solid and just knows how to do it. I know you've got a guy who's an expert at Eastlake sitting right below.
Yeah, so you're going to pick Patrick Cantlay to go. I mean, he was the first person to successfully defend a playoff title by winning the BMW Championship last week. And I'm not saying it was a cool season for Cantlay, but as you say, playoff time, this guy just comes alive. So great victory for him last week. My outright favourite this week, replacing Rory Mcilroy, is Xander Schauffele. And I mean, he's plus 750, but Xander is an Eastlake connoisseur. He loves this place. So I'm just going to look back at his past performances. In 2020, he shot 15 under for the week, and that was the lowest score without the handicap system. So there you go. out of all the guys that teed it up over those 4 days, he played the best. He finished in a tie for 2 for a runner-up in the end, but obviously he would have won by, I think, 3 strokes if it had been a normal stroke play event. Finished runner-up in 2019, won the Tour Championship in 2017, but that was obviously before you only had one winner. Justin Thomas walked away with the FedEx Cup. But he loves this place. I mean, last year we were just talking about his score. He would have finished runner-up again last year just by his score alone. So he is my pick. He's had, 3 wins, 6 top 10s. He's starting on 6 under, so 4 back of Scheffler. But, I mean, really, 4 shots. I think that's well within the bracket. And Xander's playing so well right now. So he's going to be my new outright favourite to win the FedEx Cup this weekend.
Everybody, you and me included, haven't talked about Scheffler, who is probably now on track to be Player of the Year. Probably, unless Cam Smith comes up and wins this event this week. Scheffler kind of played well last week at BMW. He sort of has that game, Diane, where you never quite know where he's going to hit it, much like Tiger off the tee a little bit. He's not always down the middle. Tremendous putter. Stats say so. Number 1 in greens and reg, number 3 in putting. Yeah. Those 2, he has the ability to hang around without looking like he's doing too much. Where do you see Scheffler? Will Scheffler be able to hold these guys off? I know you've already picked Xander, and I've already picked Cantlay to win the FedEx Cup. Where does Scotty Scheffler sit for you? Is he the Player of the Year?
Yeah, I agree with you that he's going to be Player of the Year unless, as you say, Cam Smith goes out and wins this week. But when you look at the form of the year for Scheffler, the form has dipped a little bit. Okay, he's still firmly at number 1 and he's starting on 10 under, but when you look at his really hot period, it started with that win in Phoenix at the Waste Management, and then obviously had a fantastic time round about then. So what are we looking at? February, March, April, May. And then he's kind of tailed off a little bit. So I don't think he's going to win this week. I think he's still going to be there or thereabouts. Obviously, he's starting on that score of 10 under, but I think he's going to be pipped to the FedEx Cup in the end.
Yeah, and normally, as we say on our show here, we have someone to watch and we have someone who's a dark horse. Of course, my one to watch last week, Adam Scott, and I know you were riding him a little bit as well last week, finishing the top 5 to get himself into the FedEx Cup. Now he's starting 10 strokes back. Won't be the week for Scotty. He'll get this done, and there's rumours of him also going to live. But also, I saw him next to the President's Cup trophy, Diane, which is coming up at Hollow. The international team is kind of shaping up a little better than I thought. I saw the list the other day. There's still some more picks that have to come in from Immelman. However, do you see anyone else down the board before we talk about other hot players? Scott Stallings, who I rode heavy, had him picked 1 week too late. I had him at Memphis, and then he showed up at the BMW. Almost got him. Adam Scott, that was a great finish for him. I mean, he's finished in the top 5 in the first 2 playoff events and jumped up from number 77 all the way to number 29, which for him, and then to make the President's Cup. But we've talked about him for a long time as well. The fact that he's been playing great, finished top 15 at the US Open and at the Open Championship. Sahith Theegala was one of my picks last week. Again, Sahith he had to play out of his mind to make it into the top 30, and he did it. And he spoke afterwards about how it's just a dream come true, and he still pinches himself that he's not only playing on the PGA Tour, but he's made it all the way to the end. And for the guys making it into the top 30, we talked about this, finish last place, you walk away with $500,000. But also you get into 3 of the 4 majors next year, including the Masters. So getting into that top 30, it's a huge deal. And we saw the passion from the likes of Adam Scott and Theegala last weekend. Yes, we certainly did. Going back to statistics, Diane, I'm looking at some JM who, in my day, at the end of the top 30, we were all sitting in the locker room and we said to one another, who was the best ball striker for the season? By my list, Diane, it would be some JM. He finished in the top 30, the only one who was in the top 30 in driving accuracy. Everyone else is up in the hundreds. Top 10 in greens and reg, and then in the top 5 in scrambling. So some JM in my era would have been regarded as having the best year off the tee to green and chipping onto the green. Ranks at 130th or so in putting, and that's why we don't see his name all the way up there every week. But certainly virtuoso striker of the ball, and has proven it over the length of this year. Do you see Sungjae starting 6 shots back? Is he a long shot this week, or is it just too much with the putter at 130?
No, I think that he's definitely in there with a chance. He is plus 3,000, so 30-1 for Sungjae this week. And we did our SG Tour re-ranking as we normally do without the handicap starting score, and he ranked in at number 3, which was really interesting. So only 6 shots back. I mean, that's the same as Rory. It's the same as Tony Finau, Sepp Straka, who you mentioned earlier as well, and Cam Smith. So no, and as you say, looking down at these guys that are slightly higher odds that are still in there. I mean, Sungjae at 30-1. Sepp Straka, interestingly enough, is 150-1 starting on -4.
Yeah, he's hit the biggest jackpot on the playoffs so far. You think about him, Scott, having 2 top 5 to get into top 30, and Sepp Straka missed 6 cuts in a row, finished second, now finds himself in the top 10. He's had the biggest jackpot.
Yeah.
Diane, my dark horse, if there was such a thing, would be 7 shots back, which would be Jon Rahm, who also plays this course really well. Got off to a slow start last week. Had him in my game on the SG Tour app. Finished up right up there at the end. Played great on the weekend. So will Rahm be able to do anything now that he's hot? He's 7 shots back, but he's hot. He just had a baby. It's the last week of the season. Will Rahm be able to muster anything, Diane, and overcome the 7 strokes?
Yeah, and as you say, he played well towards the end. And then looking at last year, if it was just a normal stroke play event with no starting score, he would have been in a playoff for the title with Kevin Na. So again, Eastlake experience and likes it here. No, I mean, Justin Thomas as well is starting on -3. And we talk so much about the fight that JT has. It would be very hard to rule him out of this entirely when he's starting 7 shots back. That's the thing about, I mean, you know this better than anyone, and we've talked about this since the first playoff event in Memphis. There's so much volatility and anything can happen. And we've seen that from Sepp Straka, almost winning in Memphis, making it to a playoff against Zalatoris. Scott Stallings almost winning last week at the BMW. Guys find their fire when it comes to this time, and it's all on the line. And who knows? I mean, someone like Justin Thomas at 3 under par, we know what a competitor he is. He could go out there, shoot a low first rounder, and really close that deficit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on the guys, obviously, that are 5, 6, 7 shots back, Rory, JT, Jon Rahm, to get off to decent starts, because if they don't, if they lose ground right out of the gate, then it's almost over for them. So very interesting week with all the things that have happened with Live Golf and all the separation of the 2 tours. Now everybody is questioning whether or not this handicap system is a good system. Diane, when we came to the top 30 back in the day, we all started from scratch and we played. So who played the best on the last event? Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that they'll probably have a tweak or 2 coming forward somewhere along the line on this event, don't you?
There seems to be a lot of rumoured tweaks right now. I was looking at the odds board, and there's one thing that I thought was a really interesting bet. At 3-1 was for Patrick Cantlay to be the first round leader. And he's only 2 shots back right now, beginning on -8. And I mean, I quite like that. As we say, we talked about the form of Cantlay and Scheffler right now. So I don't know, 3-1 first round leader. Do you like that from Cantlay?
I do not. I think Cantlay will have to position himself in this field. I don't think he'll be swinging as freely as some of the guys down the board. There's some powerhouse down the bottom. Adam Scott's playing really well down the bottom. Sahith Theegala, he's ecstatic about being in the top 30. You've got a first time at JT Poston, who I was texting. Him and Brian Harmon's Secret Golf contributors are in there. Colin Morikawa, who thought he fixed his swing and then had a disastrous 10 last week on 1 hole. Don't know where his confidence is. Where's Victor Hovland? I thought he would be somewhere up above 8 strokes back, Diane. Jordan Spieth seems like a bit of a mess with his swing at the moment. Not sure. He's putting, he's lipping out, he's missing short putts. Has Hideki Matsuyama has been very quiet, been rumors about him. Seems like the guys that are going to live or talking about live, they all finish up getting off their game. They've been worried about it, or they're feeling anxiety about leaving Diane or whatever. Maybe that's rightly so. Don't know much about that. But the only couple that it seems like have been above that has been Cam Smith. Doesn't seem to worry him. Of course, the way he putts, nothing would worry me if I was him either.
Well, if you fancy Adam Scott for another top 10 finish, you can get him at 6-1 this week. So I mean, why not? He's finished top 5 in the other 2 playoff events. So Adam Scott's starting on level par. 6-1 if you think he's going to end up in the top 10. But it's worth noting that we are opening our games this week on the SG Tour Golf Gaming app, and we're going to play them without the handicap. So it's going to be fun to follow along, because really we're going to be watching 2 tournaments. We're going to be watching the FedExCup with the staggered scoring. Then we're going to be playing along with our games. It's just going to be a normal stroke play aggregate event, and you get to pick your 4-ball team of 4 guys.
I'll put up an opening day this week, just because you mentioned it the other day, a minute ago. I'll put up an opening day game this week on SG Tour. So the 4 lowest scores in day 1. So very interesting week, Diane. The tour is in a little bit of disarray. I don't know how this is going to play out. We'll see more after the President's Cup, I think. But there's been rumored that 7 players are leaving the tour to go to live. And, you know, we watched the U.S. Amateur this weekend. There's a couple of guys that are on live over there even. What do you make of all this, Diane? And we had a secret meeting with Tiger Woods and Rory Mcilroy and some of the top players. Now they're talking about almost copying the live with 60 player events with guaranteed money. Is it going to be enough to fend off these guys leaving?
Well, next week we have another live event taking place in Boston. So we'll be talking about that again. There's no PGA Tour event next week, so it'll be all eyes on live golf if you want to consume any sort of golf. A lot going on last week, as you say, and maybe it'll be a little bit quieter this week, just as things wrap up and then ramp up next week. I think that if the tour are talking about these smaller field, no cut events, guaranteed money, even the possibility of some team events, I think it's the wrong route to go down. Even if they say, oh, we've been talking about this for years. No, because they're just going to be seen as copying the live model. And I think that is entirely the wrong way to go about it.
I can understand from the tour, Diane, that, okay, they're sitting back saying, we've still got a dozen or 15 guys that we love that are the biggest players that are going to sell everything for us, whether it's Tiger still. They've talked about him and Rory maybe doing some sort of off-campus games, if you will, off the golf course, overdoing some technology. One could only imagine it would be gambling on Top Golf and hitting shots and so on. Is that because Tiger's not comfortable being able to walk all these events? Is this something that the TV will pick up on? It's going to be it's very concerning time. I talked to a lot of guys that are in the membership that have no idea what's going on. Your brother, of course, is on the pack. He's not leaking any info to you, I know. Otherwise, I would know about it.
He came around. He came over, and we had a good chat about it all. And he kind of said, I mean, he told me some stuff, but I said, how does it get leaked? Like, how do these things get leaked? And he's like, exactly like this. You know, someone tells their family or their caddy or their friend, they tell someone else, and then they tell, and the story gets twisted as it gets passed on from person to person. And but by all accounts, especially the Tiger meeting that was held at the BMW in Delaware, I read that Xander Schauffele had said that he would be mad if he thought that some guys were taking what was said privately in that meeting and then going and talking about it publicly or with members of the media. So I think they're definitely trying to keep this as under wraps as possible.
There's no such thing as not a leak on the PGA Tour, Diane. It's not possible with 150, 160 tour players. It's just the information just seeps out like you've never believed. So it seems like it's all out in the open now. And I think that's part of the strategy, is to let it leak out and get the people's opinion to see if it's going to work. Yeah. Monahan, of course, the commissioner, Jay Monahan, is in a very difficult position now because he's got Tiger's group now pushing against him, saying, hey, this is the direction we should go. He has not been going that direction before. There's a lot of money that they're talking about, maybe the possibility of now going to a for-profit for the PGA Tour, losing their tax status. Very, very volatile times at Tour headquarters. Our own Jason Gore from the USGA has been now hired by the PGA Tour to come down and work in player relations, find out what's going to make these guys happy. I think I texted you and said, that is an most impossible job I've ever heard.
Yeah. I mean, great for Jason Gore. We love him. And obviously the work he's done with the USGA has really paid off for the US Open. But wow, that's going to be a tough job.
No doubt.
All right. Well, as we said, we'll be catching up next week with there being no PGA Tour event before the new season gets underway. The week after that in Napa, we do have a live golf event, so we'll talk about that. But enjoy the Tour Championship this week. Elk's going with Cantlay. I'm going with Xander. We've changed our minds, but we will watch this unfold. And on Sunday, someone will be holding the FedEx Cup.